are these people?
Everyone. I am here with my very close friend and mentor who I'm very excited to have on. I've been meaning to have on for such a long time. I want to introduce you to my friend and mentor, educator, live from Kigali, Rwanda, Kadala Ronnie. I've known Ronnie for, I think, 11 years now. I met you, and you actually were one of my teachers when I came to Uganda 11 years ago. And I think since then we became very close, and I think you definitely helped me in a lot as far as my growth, in terms of me learning more about myself, but then also figuring things out in terms of my identity as a Black person, but I think also making more of a connection to Africa in general. And so I really want to thank you for that. And I'm very glad, that you're here, because in a lot of ways, this channel would not be here in part if it wasn't for you. So I'm very grateful and honored to finally have you on.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's an honor to be on this channel today.
Yeah. So I don't have a lot of time with you, so I will want to get started. So, so this week, you guys started your memorial, essentially your regarding to the Rwandan genocide 28 years ago. And
yes.
And I wanted to talk to you about it because coming from a Western standpoint, obviously there's a lot of talk regarding Ukraine right now. But I also feel like this was a very significant time in your history in particular. And kind of just to be transparent, Ronnie and I did talk about this yesterday, and mentioning that other than maybe hearing about it in the news, maybe back then in 1994 when I was in secondary school, we don't hear a lot, we don't talk about it at all here. So I wanted to give you an opportunity as a Rwandan, to kind of speak to that, but also use this as a way to educate people who may not necessarily know about it, just kind of share what happened and how, and how has the country moved on and how it's progressing in the aftermath of that tragedy. So if you just kind of want to share briefly, well, in your words, how it started and probably why, and if you just want to start.
Thank you very much, Collin, for this opportunity. Indeed, Collin is a very good friend of mine. We call him Uncle Collin in my house, so it's an honor to have him bring me on his channel. Yeah, actually, we said 28 years, which 28 years from 1994. But if we look back on the history of our country, is that it's more than 28 years. It's all the way from 1959, like when my grandparent had to leave this country, and my father was a young boy when they left. So they left because they left in situations that were not very good. There was another genocide really that happened that many people don't talk about, but in 1959, 1972, 1992, and then 94 was really the climax. So this week as a country, we go through a lot with all the memories and trying to help our brothers who were here. I was fortunate that I wasn't here at the time it was happening. It happened in 1994, but I came in 1995. It was still very fresh. And so as a country, we remember our brothers and sisters who died in the genocide that happened in 1994. So yeah, it's more than 28 years. It's been like a propaganda that went on over time, that something that really started with the colonial powers. Really, it started way back when they came into Africa, and their tactic, it was divide and rule. They found a peaceful country. You know, back then there were kingdoms, peaceful kingdoms where people lived together, and they had social classes and of Hutu, Tutsi, and Twas. Someone could graduate from one social status to go to another social status. We have a word called Kwihutura, where someone would come from being Hutu to being Tutsi, and so these were things that the kings of our country back then used to that's how they ran their country. So, and the people were in harmony, living together. And what happened is the colonial powers come in and divide us.
Can you speak more about that? Because yesterday you mentioned to me, because I didn't even know this, that I've always kind of had the idea of, you know, unlike the West, where I think we talk a lot in terms of race, in Africa, generally, you talk more in terms of tribes. And I've always had the idea that, you know, there are going to be differences among tribes culturally, language, whatever else. And there might be tension, you know, like, but that's kind of human nature, you know, that there's always going to be disagreement among groups of people in doing things.
You see, when you talk about a tribe, you have to understand that a tribe has a different language. It's two ethnic groups that speak a totally different language. I grew up in a country that had 59 tribes, and each tribe had its language. Now, with Rwanda, it was different. We are one people, one tribe that speaks the same language, same culture. Traditionally, we are pastoralists, we are cultivators, farmers, and we are hunters. And everyone used to hunt, everyone depended on the hoe, and everyone depended on the cow or goat. So, and then we have one language. So then we have the same clans. Now, clans, what people don't know, clans are actually families.
Right.
It's like in the West, today in Africa, we are borrowing the Western thing, because I'm called Kadala because my dad was called Kadala. But that was not really the way we identified family as Africans. Well, in my context, as Rwandans, we identified family by clans. So then you would realize that you would find that if you're going to find your brothers or cousins, you're all from the same clan. So in that clan is what really describes the difference in people. So now, when you come to the Hutu, Tutsi, and Twa, you will find that we could all be, you could find that someone is called Hutu and is in the same clan with a Tutsi and a Twa. That's one family. You know, that's one family. Those are brothers, they're cousins. They share the clan. They share a family name, if you to put it in a Western language that people might understand. It's like, if all my kids are Kadalas, every time I tell them, oh, your auntie called, and I say, this auntie is a Kadala, they will just know that that's really close to the family. So that's how we identified ourselves. And so the tribal thing was the bigger thing. The tribal thing was more like the nation, really. So the nation is Rwanda. And then the clans are what identified us. So we were one big tribe that had clans and social statuses. So the social status is what the colonial power measured on, because they couldn't break the family tie. That's different. So they measured on the social status to be able, because social status has the interest of, it has something to do with the economy and something to do with someone having more money than the other, or more cows than the other, and then whoever has more cows is, whoever has less is subject to the one who has more. So just same old game where the rich will rule the poor. So it's really the same old game. So
so really there's so just to kind of paraphrase all of that, so really like in terms of clans and / tribes, however you want to identify it, there are distinctions, but ultimately there really isn't a difference in terms of how I think in Rwanda you, like, from person to person, perceive yourself.
This is my how I would say it. This is what I would you might not find many people who see it that way, but what we see together as Rwandans, we're one country.
Mm.
And the fact that I've been to other parts of Africa, I've been able to experience what a tribe is, because we didn't know tribes ourselves, because we just knew we were one people, one country. Now, when you talk about tribe, now when you go to our neighbors is where you'll find many tribes. Why? Because there you find that they speak a totally different language. I think you've experienced it. You find that many people come together. When you're in Uganda, you realize that you would be in a school, and you find that in that school we have about more than 40 tribes represented.
Mm-hmm.
And it was right for tensions and fights among tribes. That's very common. It's one kingdom trying to take over another kingdom, or one chiefdom trying to take over another chiefdom. But here in Rwanda, we had no reason to fight because we were one people. Right. We were the same people with different social classes, which the colonial power majored on to divide us. Mm-hmm. Today, they're called tribes. But tribes, okay, whoever wants to call it tribe, that's them, they can call it tribe. But to me, it's one people. And this is what actually we as Rwandans know, that we know that we are one people that was just divided by the colonial powers, and they turned us against each other. Mm-hmm. And so actually when, when our fathers came back here, was a time came when we're not allowed to come back in the country, and that's why I was not born here, but my father was born here. So at some point they were able to gather resources and be able to come back. They tried all they could to make sure that they come back peacefully, but there was no room for peaceful talks for us to come back home. So the option was picking up arms. So when our fathers were coming back here, well, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but let me say this, that they came back, they have come back, and they've been able to build a system and take us back to the original, where my identity card does not indicate that I'm Tutsi or Hutu. It indicates that I am Rwandan. So now what our fathers are trying to do, what the government we have in power today is trying to do, is to make sure that we're getting back to the regional, much as we want to still go with the contemporary. You've been to Kigali, you saw how we're trying our best to make sure, I took you to both sides. I took you to the village side, and I took you to the city, Yeah. It used to, we're trying to work hard to make sure that our brothers in the village are coming along with the modernities. So Kigali is very beautiful. It's growing big. I actually moved out of Kigali now. I don't live in Kigali anymore. I moved to another village, which is as good as any other suburb you would live to in any other country. So what I'm saying is that back then we were turned against each other, and therefore, because the colonial powers wanted to take advantage. I don't know what they wanted in our country, because we don't have very many minerals, but I don't know what they really wanted from us, but sure they wanted our land and take advantage of us. But so brothers turned against each other, and in the first genocide happened in 1959. Our grandparents had to run away from the country, and then again they began practicing genocide in between 1972 and 73, and in 92. So there was an arrangement where all the Tutsi were gathered in different places of the country. It was really planned it was a planned genocide. So and the reason they've gathered them is because they wanted to be able to kill them properly and, you know, not leave any in existence. So 1994 was the climax, 100 days of just killing and killing and killing. Some people have tried to deny that this thing never happened, actually. I don't know if you knew about that. People still try to deny that the genocide. You were here and I took you to the genocide memorial, right?
Right.
Yeah, and you saw what really happened.
Yeah.
And so there are people actually that are trying to deny that this never happened.
Like who denied, like Rwandans or like Westerners?
Many, the Rwandans that really actually did the genocide and escaped the country are denying that it never happened. It's hard to say it never happened. Just recently, I went to a memorial site, and the pictures there are they gathered all these people in a church, because what happened in 1992, when they're trying to do a genocide, is when they did a genocide, not the tribe, they did it. So when they did the genocide in 1992, people were able to run to a Catholic church here where I live in Nyamata, and they were not killed. So the genociders decided, okay, well, the people are in the church, they're in the house of God, so we want to kill people in the house of God. So what happened again in 1994 is people thought when they take refuge in the church, then the genociders won't come in to kill them. It was the opposite in 1994. Hundreds of people gathered in, and they were killed. And killed. And even there was a lady that was a missionary. She was from Italy. Her name, I think, is Antonio. She was from Italy. So when she tried to take out the news and take it to the different stations, BBC and on the international level, that the Tutsi were being attacked, she was killed too. She was shot dead by the Tahtahme. So the genocide against the Tutsi, people will try to deny the genocide against the Tutsi, but it was real. It happened. We have all the evidence around. And if it was not for RPF, back then there was I told you about how fathers were able to organize and come back home with arms. So they organized an army called RPF Nkotanyi. RPF Nkotanyi was led by our president, His Excellency Paul Kagame. They are the people that stopped the genocide. Like they had, like negotiations had fallen out, and what happened is, God bless our fathers, and who were able to stand despite this. They were fighting a big army because they were actually. This was a very well-trained army, and it's all over the news that it was well-trained, very equipped, and our fathers didn't have as much as the force they were fighting against, but they were able to come in and stop the genocide when everyone else had moved out. You know, the UN was going out. People were just basically watching while this was going on, but Rwandans were able to stop the genocide. There's a saying, and it's real. It's a real saying that says the genocide a genocide against the Tutsi was started by Rwandans, and it was stopped by Rwandans. So we were able to stop the genocide ourselves against the Tutsi. So,
can you You mentioned how, colonization kind of, I don't want to say shifted, but like caused more tension among the tribes in Rwanda. Like they exacerbated that,
They created the tribes.
Right. So actually, can you speak to that? Because I don't think people know that essentially like colonizers who came into Rwanda essentially created the tribes that caused tension that led to the genocide.
Yeah.
Actually, I didn't know that until you shared that with me.
Yeah, it was, I didn't know either until I was taught about my history and realized that these were three social statuses that the colonial power created into tribes and turned against us against each other. But yeah, can you repeat that question again, please?
So, so can you speak more to how, colonizers who came into your country, exacerbated those tensions and essentially created, tribes essentially, because you mentioned how prior to you identified more as clans, like family groups essentially, but then that shifted.
The Tutsi Hutu were not clans.
Right.
That's another, we have the tribe, the bigger tribe, which is Abanyarwanda.
Right.
We are Rwandans. That's the bigger tribe if one wants it to call it a tribe.
Right.
But we are a nation, and we're a nation of people who are called Abanyarwanda. And these people had social statuses, the Tutsi, the Hutu, and the Twa. Basically, the Tutsi were the people that had more cows, and they were the ruling people. Right. But the way it was, it's like someone comes from nowhere, and now he's in the White House. You could come from, say, from the streets of Chicago, go to school. Oh, we have a guy who is like that. Your president was like that. He came from the streets of Chicago. I didn't even think about that. I was just giving an example. But he came from the streets of Chicago, went to school, worked hard, and the next thing he's a senator, and the next thing we had a president in the office. That he came from one. It's like he gave himself a class. Really, it was the same thing here. You could be poor and you find yourself being Tutsi because you worked hard and was able to gain the social status. You could be Hutu and work hard, and then the term that our grandfathers used to use is that Hutura, like you go to this, you're no longer Hutu, you've moved to a social status of the Tutsi. So when these colonial powers came in, they looked for, because they found a very organized system. Like the kings were very organized in the way they ran the country. So when they came in, it was very difficult for them to penetrate the Rwandan people because they were one people who loved their king and just paid allegiance to their king. So what they did is they basically looked for loopholes, because there are no people that are perfect, You will definitely find some flaws in any system. How best can we get this? So actually, I think they borrowed something from Belgium or France where they used to measure your nose and say how tall your nose is, then you're Tutsi. And how wide your nose is, then you're Hutu. I wonder how they used to figure out the Twa nose, because it's, doesn't make any sense. But actually, this stuff is online. It's just that in the West, people don't talk about it. You should you can just go online and you could find this information there. So,
yeah, I've seen, and that's actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I've seen online, like even I think among Rwandans who talk about that, in them sharing, you know, if I'm Hutu or Tutsi, they would mention, oh, like I might have a different type of nose and like
and they'll
in
say
comparison,
that
like
when you come, that's the now. One of the crazy things that happened was this. If during the genocide is when a Hutu guy married a Tutsi guy, okay, a Tutsi woman, sorry, that guy would kill his own children. Yeah.
right.
Because they are siblings to a Tutsi woman.
Okay.
Now that's insane. You're killing your own.
Right.
That is supposed to, those are supposed to be, according to the African tradition, the children are especially in the Great Lakes region, the children belong to the man. So really, if you tested the DNA, that guy has 99.9. This child is him 99.9%. So you're really killing yourself. That's how insane it was. Now, if you came to Rwanda today, and I put you on the street and tell me, show me who is Tutsi and who is Hutu, you won't be able to identify us.
Right.
Because we look the same.
Right.
It's over 500 years of people. Tell me, like 600, 500 years. Tell me if you're able to identify people after 500 years of living together. So yeah. I'm trying to remember how old the Rwandan kingdom is. I think it's not a kingdom anymore. It's a republic now. But back then, the last time I checked, I think it was about 600 to 500 years. And you think those people, you can identify the difference between those people with all the intermarriages that have come over the years? From even now today, they could find some white genes in you.
Right.
You know,
we talked about that. There actually are some white genes in me. Not a lot, but there is.
Oh, yeah, I think we talked about that. Now, if someone found you on the street, they'll kill you because you're Black.
Right.
But really, you're the same people. So the intermarriages that have gone on around the Great Lakes region, you find from South Africa to Congo to Chad and Cameroon, you find that there's this thing called Ubuntu meaning grace and being personhood. You find that the Tanzanians and these people used to like Tanzanians, Rwandans, Ugandans, but with us going back to us as Rwandans, we are one people that paid allegiance to the same king, and it's just that someone had and it's just like what happened really with Africa. It's the divide and rule. Berlin Conference, when they divided Africa into pieces, no African was represented there. So it was a divide and rule, the same old divide and rule game that was used by the imperialists and the colonialists.
Yeah,
is what really was the root of the genocide against the Tutsi here in Rwanda.
I think go ahead.
Yeah, one of the things that really saddens me, what our fathers did when they came is and this, our president says this very clearly. We could have come in and killed just because our brothers and sisters were being killed, but he chose not to, because that was not the solution. Just because someone killed your brother doesn't mean that you should kill him back. Then we won't have a nation. So what he did, he just asked for patience. He said, hey, I remember listening to him. He said, What we need now is the rule of law and put a legal system in place and charge the people that committed the crimes during the 100 days of the genocide against the Tutsi, and indeed that's what happened. And these people have served their 25 years in jail and they're out now. And they're back in the community. Some have repented to the people that they did these things too. And so what really hurts me is someone just being outside and saying this thing never happened. Actually, when you say it never happened, that means you even have the potential of doing it again. That's my personal analysis.
Right.
Because admitting it, like the guys that admitted that they did the wrong things, they killed people here, were put in jail. They served their terms. 25 years later, they are outside and they're in the community, and they've been transformed and rehabilitated, and they've been educated on how we are one country. And so
right now, you're memorializing the event with like you're basically like in mourning essentially for the next 100
yeah,
days.
it is a mourning. Yeah, we did 1 week. We did 1 week last week up to yesterday, and we still have 100 days to go.
So
but,
can you talk, so for our audience who doesn't know about that, can you share more about what that entails?
Yes.
Or what is happening right now in your country during this time?
What is happening is that we come together and we basically give testimonies. Like one survivor would give a testimony of what really happened. And then we'll have one of our leaders come up and give a speech. But currently the speech is more centered around unity, renewing, and development. Yes, we agree this happened it happened to us. Let me try to get something here. We don't deny that this happened in our country. What really is focused on during this time is we remember what happened. And we don't remember to revenge. No. We remember for this never to happen again. That's why we remember. And then we remember again to be able to unite the people, unite ourselves, and always remember that we are brothers, we are one country. There's no Hutu or Tutsi. I mean, those are social statuses like any other country would have. We don't deny that we had those social statuses back then. But our main message is remember, and the purpose of remembering is for us to be able to be united and then be able to renew and promote development, really.
So can you talk more about that as far as the development, like, and I saw that when I was in Kigali 3 years ago, like, so can you talk more about that, how in your opinion, that unity is translating to, I think almost like reform of your country and like rebuilding essentially. Can you speak more about that?
So one of the things when you come to Rwanda and you get to the local authorities, you will realize that one of the things that when you come to Rwanda is you will realize that yeah, you realize that one of the things you realize if you take time to come to Rwanda, you realize what how our healthcare system is working.
Talk more about that actually, because and actually we have a mutual friend who I would love to have on at some point to talk more specifically about that. But I've mentioned to you, you know, just how, and I think this was something that I was very struck by when I was there, because I think personally, like we talked about this while I was there, but I think the idea that you have, and it's not really, I wouldn't say a true version of universal healthcare, but something like a variation of it, as far as, you know, like if you pay to the government, like a certain amount of money every year, and then basically like any care you need, for the most part, you would have you're accounted for, more or less.
Yeah.
So so very briefly, can you talk a little bit about that?
I don't want to call it the universal healthcare. I want to call it the Rwandan healthcare.
Yeah.
Because it is Rwandan. It's unique to ourselves. Go to our neighbors, you know, not to compare to some of the places I've been in Africa. You won't find this. We are very privileged as Rwandans to have this, where the government will pay 90% of your healthy bill. So that's.
And I have to check the statistics, but I think it's like 90% of the country is covered currently.
But it's a program that we push for. I personally am very involved because I realize this is good for us, and I promote it. I work very closely with the local authorities to make sure that we promote this in our country, because, you know, you've been here, and I don't know, you didn't go into the details of, you didn't have a lot of time when you were here the last time, but this is what is happening. We work hard. There are some people in the villages that cannot afford, and we try our best to make sure that we provide the 10%, and then it's everyone pays 3,000 francs. Every person pays 3,000 francs, and that 3,000 francs is about $3, 3.5, I would say, dollars.
You keep talking. I'll check the conversion right now.
Yeah. So, and that is what every Rwandan pays and is able to access medication from the local level to our national referral hospital. And so that is really helping very much. Like, I don't have to run for big medical insurances for my family. That's what I use myself, you know. So, and it really works. Like the last time my wife, when you came here, we had our small baby, right?
Yes.
So, you know, we were blessed to be able to use the system when my wife went to give birth. It could have cost me lots of money, but we just paid. Interesting. I think I paid 450 francs.
Right. So remind me, how much do you pay a year for?
3,000 francs.
3,000.
3,000 francs. Yeah.
So
how much is that in dollars?
So it is like just under $3.
Under $3.
Yeah, just $300 US a year.
A year, yes, per person.
Right.
And that means you could access medication from your local authorities to the national referral hospital.
So, I mean,
basically,
go ahead. Go ahead.
Basically, you have access to all the good doctors in the country.
So I think I've asked you this while I was there, but so
if
the government is willing to pay 90, why not 100? Why not make sure that everyone is covered?
No, you see, that's the thing. That's the thing. Thank you for asking that. Thank you for asking that. That is really. Let me share a little bit about that. You see, you don't want to give people everything, because what you're really doing is you're building a dependency, the syndrome from your people. That's not helping them. People have to contribute something. I don't call it really pay, it's contribution to,
right?
Because government can give you 100%, but then you're more like a bird, really. That I don't know if how do you call those young birds that their mother feeds, goes and gets some food and then puts in their mouth? I don't know how you call that, but it's more like you are a young bird that is being fed by its mother. That's not right. That's actually affecting people's mind. People will begin to think that everything is given to us free, and therefore we don't need to worry about. Sorry, just a minute. So what would happen is that you'll be really spoiling people's minds, because they won't be able to own the initiative, really. So the reason for the 3,000 francs is to help our people make sure that they're playing a part in their healthy care. It's not, and if someone can't afford, there's always many ways to help them. So we would come in, maybe a church would come in and help, or another organization would come in and help, and pay for those that really can't afford. But usually we encourage everyone to pay.
Right. I just think, for me, and this kind of be my Western standpoint, like, if the poor aren't able to pay, I think just more in that investment, because ultimately, if you're able to get checked for your health as you need to, then that kind of frees you up to like do other things as far as in supporting the community in other ways. Like, and I mean, I get, like, if it were here, like if we were to have universal healthcare, like single payer system in the States, it would be us paying taxes. So we would pay into the government, essentially, so that when we use it, it'll be free at the point of service. So you guys don't have that kind of system over there. So I can see how you would kind of say, everyone should chip in. But I can also make the argument too that if you are really poor and don't have the money necessarily, and if you're trying to, and I saw this kind of like when we were in Uganda, the idea that if you don't have money, essentially, you can't afford to go to school. You can't afford to really do much of anything. So, and health is kind of tied to that, that if you have poor health, then you're pretty much, you can't, like, you're very limited to what you can do. But if you're able to go to the doctor, as you should, without that worry, then you're able to contribute to the community and essentially the country in other ways, as far as you're able to work as you should, you're able to take care of your family as you should, so a lot of that, you're kind of alleviating certain problems that if you're not able to go to the doctor, and then if they figure out something is wrong with you, then it's going to be a lot harder for you to get treatment. So I don't know. I think it's just maybe a different way. I kind of see where you're kind of coming at it, but yeah, and I did mention that when I was there. I think the idea of thinking about seeing people who may not necessarily be afford to go to the doctor, who should and need to, you know, that they're not going to go because, you know, because they may not have, again, it's $3 relatively.
But no one wouldn't be able to go to the doctor.
Right.
Because, you know, again, I want to get back to what I was talking about, what the colonial powers did to us, is they tried to brainwash us and make us dependent on being given things. And that's a mentality that broken. Oh,
I got you. I got you. It's well, okay, keep going. So yeah, I got you.
My power just went off.
Yeah, this is what happens in this is what happens in Kigali. So this is common.
No,
so
I'm not in Kigali right now.
Well, so, you're outside of it, so you know. So this
but
is
the
common
good thing
occurrence,
is that the good thing is that the power here doesn't go for a long time. It'll be back in a few minutes. Yeah. So what I was saying is that everyone can afford to get 1,000 francs. It's a year. No, you can't tell me that in a year you won't be able to get 3,000 or $3. So before again, I go back to the colonial powers. Before that, we would be able to. Oh, right.
There you go.
There you go. You want this out. So, but anyway, what I was saying is that before the mentality of the dependence syndrome, where Africans always look to the West for survival, for everything, to a point that your own mangoes, I know a country that I won't go into details about that, where the locals would grow the mangoes, and those mangoes they would tell them that they should not eat the mangoes raw. The mangoes have to be shipped to the colonial power, and then they make the juice and then bring back the juice and sell it to them, saying you couldn't eat the mangoes because you'll get sick. I grew up feeding mangoes all my life. How do you tell me that mangoes are not good for me? That you have to take care of your own country to be able to squeeze the juice out and be able to sell it back to me. So it's a mentality that we don't want in Rwanda. We don't want, we want our people to, our country is built by Rwandans. When you come, we have a program that is called Umuganda. Umuganda is when the community comes together and they work together about a certain situation that is in the community. Say if we have a bad road, then we'll come together and make sure we work on that road once every month. And it's a program that goes all around the country. It's the same mentality of breaking the dependence syndrome, where we find solutions within ourselves for our own issues. So, yeah, and that's why we have to, everyone can afford 3,000 francs.
So I think from that,
it's a big, yeah.
So I think just kind of what you shared is that where in my mind, it's like that the government, if you're able to do 90%, then you should be able to do fully 100. But I think in the way you kind of see it is, okay, so where they're not going to give the 10%, let us help people, let's find the ways to help those 10%. I think for you, I think I could say that for you, that, you know, like you are committed. So actually I wanted to ask you that, and I want to be, I think we have another 5 minutes. So I think this will be my last question for you. And then a couple of hours before I'll let you go. But do you feel that, I know that for you, that you have that commitment to help people, you know, it's in regards, I think something as simple as like, you know, paying, you know, that amount of money, yeah, which I helped actually when I was there. But do you feel that others share that same sentiment as you? When it comes
I think
to that?
it's built in within the system, because I don't do it by myself. I do it with the local authorities that are here, because I work very well with my local authorities, because we have the same cause. I usually, you know, when the time for paying that comes, I'll go to their office and just tell them, hey, you know, I have this much money, depending on how much I have, you know, I have this much money. Do you think we can find people that we can help with this? Usually my first priority would be, say, an abandoned mother that is pregnant and she can't be able to help herself. Then I'll go for that one. Oh, an old mama that is in the village and she cannot really help herself and she needs that medical care. We'll go for that, for such, like a family that is run by a grandmother, you know, to say, or a grandmother that lost all her kids in genocide against the Tutsi. So we'll go for such. We'll look out with the local authorities and look into what we can help. Okay. Yeah.
So final question, and I think this just means I need to have you back on again, because I have so many more questions for you.
Yeah. All right.
I'm sure, but I definitely will have to have you back on again at some point.
But that's our biggest. That's the biggest thing. We really, that's our biggest thing. We want to help people with medical care, and we also want to go big with education too.
Yeah. So actually, I think that would be a great way to kind of end. So I know we've kind of talked about this before, but if you want to share with whoever is watching, what do you feel like are the biggest needs in Rwanda right now that, I don't know, like if people, you know, like if there are people who are thinking about, hey, you know, like, especially given how Rwanda is kind of thought of like as a shining star in East Africa in particular, you know, just as far as a lot of, you know, like the healthcare program, especially, I think is kind of like something that I think you guys are proud of. And I think that's kind of like something that's not well known, but I think at least, you know, you can turn to that as something very positive, you know, that's happening within your country. But what other needs do you think within the country that, you know, that I think can be reformed in the same way, or like can
so one is I'll start with the good. The good thing is we have a system that works. We have a government system that works. And I know people have criticized us in many ways, but this is working for us as Rwandans. I speak that with conviction. It really works for us as Rwandans in the country. So we have a system that works. You can be sure that once you invest in Rwanda, that you'll be able to see what you're fighting for. You'll be able to make the difference you want to make. Second, what we need. We don't need handouts. I think I've told you this before.
Yes.
So
but we talked about the idea how, like, not a handout, but in a way that I kind of came in when I first met you in Rwanda, by having the mindset of, you know, I'm essentially a guest in your country, in your region. So me coming in and learning as much from you as possible, but then giving you all the forum to kind of teach me some things.
Yeah,
and
you know, this is what I'm saying. You see, we have a lot to give. We just we need the means on how to give it. Now, we have a few minutes, but let me get back to what I was saying. We don't need handouts. We need someone with the right mind and a right heart to come and teach us on how to fend for ourselves. So we need education more than, and I know, like, I'm taking my kids to school, but I have to provide some resources to help them make sure that they're in school, because I won't send my kid to school without a shoe and things like that. But we can help. We can help foster, but the heart behind should be, how can I equip the mind of this person that they won't depend on me always? They'll be able to fend for themselves. What's their gifting? What do they have? What can I develop that is already in them? Or how can I improve their education? How can I give them more knowledge so that they can, based on that knowledge, to be able to fend for themselves, rather than coming with a mentality, oh, these are the poor people, we need to help them, let's give them, you know, they need shoes, let's buy them shoes. But you haven't showed me how to make the shoe. Because I have a cow and I don't know how, when I eat the meat of my cow, then how about the skin? Well, how do I use that skin? Can that skin become a shoe that I can wear tomorrow?
I enjoy it. I like it better than any